Ain't this something? Yes. Are you still on live? And that is to Kimbrella Studio. Yes, I'm here again. So we're back. We're back. Let's see if this is going to stay on it. They don't like when the truth is spoken. I promise it's not falling on deaf ears. I hope it's not sin. But I'm back. I'm back. So I need you guys once again, share the video. Come on back, family. That's right, D Champion. Share the video. Make sure you share it through your chat, your Facebook, your Instagram, whatever you have to do it. We're back. We're going to pick up where we left off. No need for me to repeat it. If you have not already caught what I said, go ahead and watch part one. This is part two of the same damn topic because we got to talk about the truth. We got to talk about the truth because I want you guys to all stop getting excited. For those of you guys who are about these little buzzwords and these clickbait titles and having people to think that we're doing better. We're doing better where there's no data. There's no evidence that supports we're doing better. So I know some people might be wondering, well, why are you speaking about this? Because you are a marriage counselor. You are a relationship expert. This is what you do it. Let me tell you something why I speak about these kind of things. Because you cannot have a healthy family if you cannot afford to live. And if you understand what goes into the making of a healthy family, you in this world, in this capitalistic society, you need to be able to afford to live. And we already know that most divorces and most breakups and stuff, most of them happen not because we just don't like each other, but because of finances. Not all, but most of them happen because of that reason. So if we're not educated, somebody's asking Silky Slim, is this live? Silky Slim, since you're asking me this live, I guess this answers your question. So yes, Silky Slim. Silky Slim. That just sounds like a very suspect word. Silky Slim. Why your name Silky Slim? I don't even know if I want to know. Keep it to yourself. But yes, we live. We live. So Gunnar saying you are so good. Thank you. I'm glad you laughing, Silky Slim. So I answered your question. So clearly this is live, right? We got to be able to talk about these things because here we are. Some people don't like when we say 400 years later. Oh, there you go, black folk again. Oh, we're talking about slavery. Y'all know nothing about slavery. Y'all talking about slavery. I don't even have to say 400 years later. I was born in the late 70s. So I can just say, here we are 45 years later. And we still in the same goddamn position. See, some people would say, no, we're not in the same position, Dr. Shonna. Because what I've accomplished, my parents never accomplished. But when we look at it on a macro level, you know, the macro level means as a whole, not one little small microcosm, not one or two people that you personally know. But when you look at all of us collectively, 42 million or 38 million, and whether you want to count in everybody who's not of this country, you know, who are black, or you just want to count in those of this country who are black, 38 million or 42 million. When you look at all of us as a whole, collectively, we're not doing good. Yeah. I've accomplished more than what my mother ever accomplished in her lifetime. But wealth is what I do not have. Income and wealth are two different things. Income I got. Wealth I do not see. Wealth is not born today. That's not how it happens. Wealth is something you pass down from generation to generation to generation. So when I'm on here, despite the fact that my expertise is in relationships, but despite the fact that I help people better communicate, improve their relationship, and connect to each other, despite that fact, I'm an activist. I'm a social worker. And I'm able to understand things that need to be addressed. So I address it. Because we get caught up on bullshit. Right? Thank you so much for that donation, Jamie Martinez. Jamie says the Republicans only cater to black bourgeoisie, and Lord knows they don't care. Lord knows they don't care. Right? Yes, that's right. Sim is saying legacy. It's all about legacy. It's all about legacy. So that's why I'm addressing this. So let's go back to where I left off. It says tax cuts included new opportunity zone investments to promote investments in low-income communities. The buzzword is opportunity zones. So does that mean the African-American community is directly benefiting from the tax cuts? so that they can build businesses and generate income and opportunity zones? Is the African American community directly benefiting from the tax cuts? The tax cuts, the tax cuts. See, we get so excited in this whole opportunity zone language, not realizing if you're not building real estate, if you're not bringing in major corporations and businesses, ain't nothing going in your pocket. You're going to be a worker working at $13 an hour, working at $14 an hour. I already told you guys what the poverty guidelines are. They sure know how to keep you poor enough that you don't build wealth from generation to generation, but rich enough that you don't get no damn benefits or entitlements. Oh, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. Here it is. Thank you so much. Shout out for that donation to Alex Little, who's saying income and wealth are two different things. We appreciate you, Dr. Shonna. I appreciate you. And that's a fact. See, let me tell you, I know somebody. Let me go back to those guidelines. Remember what I said? Most people in most states, at least I know in Jersey, if I'm not mistaken, it could have changed. But the last time I filled out anything for, you know how the school sends in the paper, and whether you qualify for free lunch or not, you have to fill out that paper. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe at that time, Jersey was either going by the 200 percentile of poverty or the 250 percentile of poverty, right? So if you are a household of one and you fall between the 200% or the 250% percentile, then you might qualify for some services. So that means if you are a household of one and you making anywhere from 25,000, household of one. So 25,520% at 200% means you're considered living below the poverty line. So if you're making 25,000, you miss the poverty. You miss being above poverty by $521. $521. Come on now. So if you're making $26,000 and they're using the 200 percentile as a guideline to determine if you are considered living in poverty and whether or not you're going to get entitlements or benefits, and you're making 26,000, and the 200 percentile says if you're making $25,520 or less, then you are considered as living in poverty. But you're making 26,000. You missed it. You missed it by $480. 26,000. I'm sorry to break the news to you. You're poor. In 2020, if you are making $26,000, you are poor. Because that's $26,000 before taxes. And you still got rent. You still got cell phone. You still got cable. You still got car insurance. You might have a car note. You still got groceries. You still got life insurance. You possibly have health insurance. All of this stuff coming out your check. So when they tell you that the poverty rate has dropped, they're using the federal guidelines. If you live in a state that says they're going by the 250% poverty rate and you make $32,000, I'm sorry to bust your bubble. If you are a party of one and you make $32,000, and especially if you're living on the West Coast or the East Coast at $32,000 and it's just you, they're saying you're not considered poor. But I'm sorry to bust your bubble. You are poor. You see how this works? So if the 250 percentile says $31,900 or below, you're considered living in poverty. If you make above $31,900, you're not in poverty. You missed it by $100. You make $32,000 a year. Now you don't qualify for food stamps because you ain't poor. Now, family, if it's buffering again, I don't know what to tell you. That's YouTube. Right? So when we talk about opportunity zones, tax cuts and opportunity zones, it ain't got nothing to do with us. It don't have not a goddamn thing to do with African Americans, but for some reason, to bolster their report, to boast about their report, they happen to use the word African American and put it in that report because everyone in society in America wants to know what's happening with the African American community. Are they improving? So every presidential candidate or every president always focuses on the African American community because the strange, nasty, despicable, volatile, hostile, abusive relationship we have with them in America. So they want to try to prove that they're getting better. They're improving the African American community. So when they say that the African American community is at a record low when it comes to poverty, look at those numbers. And when they talk about opportunity zones, it ain't us that's getting the benefit of the opportunity. It's them that's coming into our communities with their little tax cuts for X amount of years. And when that year is up, they're going to hike up the rent and your asses are going to be put out. And that's what's called gentrification. Because you're clearly living within a poverty line. You're at $32,000. There's no way on hell you can afford rent for $2,500. You live in a poor community, but for some reason, all these people are coming in, building up your community to so-called make it better for you, but they're not giving you jobs because you don't speak Spanish. I know y'all don't like me to talk about this. I know y'all don't like to talk about this, but it's the truth. It's the truth. They're not giving your asses jobs because the people who are benefiting from the opportunity, the tax cuts in your opportunity zone don't look like you. And they despise you. Oh, y'all like to hear what I have to say. That's cool. Shout out to the Swoovius for that donation. He says those opportunity zones they speak of are our communities. It's synonymous with gentrification. Peep gang family. Absolutely. I just said it. Absolutely. It's all about gentrification. So here it is. Here's the symbolism. Let me show you how it goes down because I see the ignorance all the time and it drives me nuts. And if I didn't pay so much for my sister locks, I would pull these shits out. That's how much people stress me the hell out. When I go and I'm like, New York is coming up. It's getting better for us. You get what I'm saying? We doing better. We got corporations out, Whole Foods. This is real conversations out here. Whole Foods are here now. Nike is here. We got Chipotle. We got all these good stores now. It's getting better for us. And then I go into these supermarkets and yeah, they're employed as cashiers, but the managers are white. They're employed as stockers, but their supervisors are white. Somebody hearing me? Somebody hearing me? I hope y'all hearing me. And they're excited that they're getting paid $15 an hour. And they're going back to their block. The block. We all got the block, right? We go to the block. They're going back to the block to tell their homeboy or their homegirl, nah, go apply to Whole Foods. Go apply to Trader Joe's. They pay $15 an hour. And you making $15 an hour, and they making sure they keep you part-time. Come on, family. Am I talking true or not? They make sure they keep you part-time at $15. See, if you was working full-time at $15 an hour, you're making roughly $30,000 to $31,000. Now, I already told you the poverty zone, right? If you're at the 200 percentile and you are a household of one and you're making $30,000 to $31,000 working full-time at $15 an hour, you don't qualify for services. Because at 200%, if you're making more than $25,520, you're not considered poor. So you don't qualify for services because that's the federal guidelines on poverty. Oh, shit. Y'all not hearing me. Right? That's if you're working full-time. But they keep your ass poor because you're working part-time. You're working half of those hours, or at least just enough so they won't have to give you health insurance. So instead of you bringing home 30 to 31,000, you're bringing home 26,000. But the 200 percentile says if you make more than $25,520 for a household of one, you ain't poor. I'm sorry to bust your bubble. If you're making 26,000, you're poor. Don't let that go to your pride and ego. Don't let it bruise you. That's just the systematic poverty. And that's why I say to people that poverty, just like unemployment, is structural. It is by design. But check this out, what they do to you as well. So some of y'all got at least one child. And you working at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Acme, or whatever else supermarket in your area, and you're making, and if you're in the East Coast or the West Coast like California, you're making $15 an hour per se. Y'all gotta tell me, I don't know what y'all make in your area, but I know in my area is about $15 an hour for these people that work in these supermarkets and stuff. So they make about $15 an hour, and they have at least one child, so that makes them a household of two, and they're working at least part-time. So if you're going by the 200 percentile, and the 200 percentile for a household of two says you got to be making below $34,480 for a household of two, and you just happen to make $29,000 because you know they ain't going to have you full time because they don't want to pay you no health insurance. So you're making $29,000, and as you and your child, you're considered poor. So you can get Section 8, you can get food stamps, and you realize that you need these things because at making $29,000, if you don't get Section 8, if you don't get food stamps, if you don't get welfare or something like that, if you don't get these things and Medicaid, if you don't get these things, you can't survive. Because at $29,000 or $27,000, even though you're considered poor and you're employed, you can't afford rent without assistance. Structural poverty. Structural poverty. Structural poverty. Right? You understand what I'm saying? Structural. But we get excited over these things. We get excited that big name corporations that are getting tax cuts, billions of dollars in tax cuts that's coming into our community to give us employment that drives down the unemployment rate, but they don't pay you enough to survive, or what we would call in social sciences, like researchers like me, we will call it a livable wage. So you don't make a livable wage. They give you just enough so you could be happy you employed, but not enough for you to survive or build wealth. Oh, shit. Oh, yes. Go ahead, Gunnar. Gunnar says, but we need to drug test and at least show proof you're looking for a job in order to get Section 8 and food stamps. Let me go on. So that same report written by the White House, the Trump administration, says in respect to the tax cuts, $100 billion in long-term private capital investment in economically distressed communities. So they're giving $100 billion funding to private capital investments so that they can go into the hood to invest in economically distressed communities. Is another way to exploit our communities, is another way to drain from our communities without giving anything back. But see, you get like Facebook going to Newark, New Jersey, when Cory Booker was the mayor, shaking hands, giving $1 million donation, and we think Facebook was doing something good, and the community is still suffering. What happened to the money? If you read the articles out there, that shit was misappropriated. If you read the articles out there, it went into somebody's goddamn pockets, but not the community's pockets. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. That's right, Creole Sheila. She says the opportunity zone is a scam. It's exploitive. The opportunity zone is to make sure the rich get richer. And so we get excited because we see the so-called beautification of our community. And then we see vanilla drops all in our community, drowning out the chocolate in our community because it's causing the chocolate to leave the community and go to other areas because they can no longer afford what was once their community. It's a new form of colonization. It's a new form of it. And we get excited when we see Rebecca and Dick walking around our communities with their dogs. We get excited because we think it's getting better for us. And while Rebecca and Dick is walking around with their dog in a community, the police are only patrolling and keeping crime down just where Rebecca and Dick lives. Meanwhile, up the block at 227, Ray, Daquan, and them are still getting shot up. And the police don't give a flying FUCK about what's going on up the block at 227. But for some reason, when the colonizers come in, crime stops in their area. Am I lying? Am I lying, family? This is why these are the type of videos we need to be sharing. This is why these are kind of videos we need to be interacting with, because in our community, collectively as a whole, we're not talking about these goddamn things. Instead, we're talking about the newest Jordans or the next iPhone. We're talking about dumb shit. Right? Shout out to Creole Sheila. Welcome to the community, Creole. So when I see your name and I see your comment, you know, I'll give you some shout outs and read your video for, read your comment for being a part of the community. Right? So what else does this thing says? It says deregulation, tax reform, and job training, better climate for minority-owned businesses and workers. Let me say that again. Deregulation, we know that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing to deregulate. Regulations are put in place, so not only does it protect the American citizens, but it also protects our environment. Regulations are important, so they're deregulating it. They're making it easier for you to do business. And it says tax reform, so they're changing the tax code. They're lowering their tax responsibility or their tax accountability when you make a certain amount of money. And it says job training for better climate for minority-owned businesses and workers. Minority-owned businesses. What are minority-owned businesses? We love buzzwords. All the buzzwords. Oh, minority. Oh, minority-owned. That's me. Meanwhile, back at 21 Jump Street, when you go to a minority-owned business forum where they're going to have information about grants and opportunities coming available, and you looking around, you and maybe one or two other people are the only African Americans or so-called African Americans or ADOS or B1 or FBA, whatever you want to call yourselves nowadays. You're the only ones in the room. About 3 of y'all. And everybody else are white women who just happen to be married to white men. Asians, Indians, Middle Easterns, LGBTQ that ain't African American. See, you got to understand that whole LGBTQ world, right? We like to use that umbrella world umbrella word, and we think everybody falls up under that category, where in fact, even in the LGBTQ community, the Black people are at the bottom, oftentimes overlooked. Oh, we don't want to talk about that, right? Krill is saying that LGBTQ, white people are minorities, white Hispanics are minorities. Everybody go in that goddamn pot. Everybody go in that goddamn pot. See, that's the buzzwords. So they're going to create a better climate for minority-owned businesses. And we already know when it comes to so-called minority-owned businesses, we already know whose businesses they're talking about, that they're going to give these deregulation and tax reforms too. So you got to be making X amount of money in your business to even qualify for a tax reform so that you won't get hurt. You got to be at a certain threshold financially. Somebody said, Timothy Stevenson says, I'm not in position to ask Trump for anything. Where are the Black people that are? Who you talking about? The Black Caucus? Who you talking about? The Urban League? Who you talking about? The NAACP? You are in a position to speak to Trump. And that's the problem, people. We think we don't have no power. Well, little old me, I can't speak to Trump. Yes, you can. It could be little old you, and you can gather a whole bunch of people, and you can keep pushing the issue, and making enough noise, and you will get into the White House. I don't believe that you're not strong enough or big enough or powerful enough to speak to Trump. I don't believe that. You better beat down the door of your councilman. You better beat down the door of your senators. You better make some noise. I don't believe that. Right? So let's go on to whatever else they're talking about. In this report, it says secure. This is what they're saying that Trump did to help prosper the African-American community. Buzzwords. Secured private sector commitments. Secured private sector commitments to provide $6.5 million in training and education opportunities for American workers. Listen to the buzzword. See, this report was titled, President Trump Working to Expand Opportunity and Prosperity for African Americans. Google that report name. It said President Trump Working to Expand Opportunities and Prosperity for African American. That's what the title says. But when have you told me, other than the poverty rate and the unemployment rate, out of everything that I have read to you guys so far, and this is directly from the report, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not paraphrasing anything. Directly from the report. What have you heard that he has done for our community just yet? Shout out to the Geek Mom's Good Stuff for that donation. Geek Mom says, open your ears and your mind. Dr. Shonna bringing the fire. Geek Moms is a student in my Saturday class for relationships for women. You know what I'm saying? This is what happens when we build these kind of relationships. We build these kind of relationships and we do great things so we can make sure that we're making the changes that we need to make in order for us to position our families for success. So we have deep conversations, right? In that group, we have deep conversations. We check ourselves every Saturday, including me. That's where I share transparently all of who I am in that group to my ladies, because I understand what it's like. So getting back to the topic at hand, it says $6.5 million in training and education opportunities for American workers, not African-American workers, American workers. So once again, every goddamn person falls in that gumbo. But the title of the report says prosperity for African Americans. I haven't heard anything about prosperity for us just yet. We got to listen to these buzzwords, these keywords. $6.5 million training and education opportunities for American workers. Who are they talking about? So you also got to understand when they say things like this in a report, but they don't tell you specifically what programs are benefited from it. It leaves the responsibility to you to go out to search what monies are available for you to receive education and job training so that you can position yourself and your family for success. But if you don't read this report, if you didn't go to the White House website and read this report so that you can do a little bit more research, you ain't going to know what job training programs is available for you, because they goddamn sure ain't going to go and tell you in your community. There ain't going to be no billboards in your community letting you know that there's money for you to get your education, that there's money for you to get your job training. They're not going to tell you that in your community. Mm. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. Right? Alex Little said, matter of fact, define prosperity. Ain't no prosperity for African. Let me tell you something about prosperity. When they say prosperity for African American, let me tell you what they're saying. Because the report started off, as if you guys were here for the first part one of this video, the report started off by saying the unemployment rate for African Americans, and that was specific to African Americans, fell to a record low of 5.9%. And then the second thing that was specific to African Americans is that the poverty rate for African Americans reached the lowest record ever since 2017. Those are the only two things that were specific to African Americans. And then they went on to tax cuts. And then they went on to deregulation. And then they went on to community zone. And then they went on for $6.5 million in opportunities of training, job trainings, and education opportunities. Then they went on all of that, but they said Americans. And they said minorities. So they're giving you just enough to stay right above the poverty line, but not enough to build wealth, not enough to survive without the trauma, without the hardship, without poverty. And I don't know about y'all. I grew up in poverty. I don't know about y'all, but poverty is painful. Thank you so much for that water sniper. Hit that like button. Hit that like button, guys. Share the video. So let's go on to this report. So here's where it gets murky. Here is where it gets murky. This is where people start to believe that, oh, this is specific for the African American community. I'm about to bust this down for y'all. Thank you so much, Sharice. Sharisa Little was saying, I'm a grant writer. Sharisa Little, send me an email, because I'm a 501c3 organization, and I'm not trying to put money in. I'll shut my mouth. Just put it like this. Sharisa Little, send me an email, askdrshonna@gmail.com. Ask Dr. Shonna, SHONNA, ask Dr. Shonna@gmail.com. Maybe we can do business, because I need some grants into my organization, counseling grants. We'll talk. We'll talk. We'll be specific. But they're out there now, especially since COVID. It got crazy. It got sick. So I'm trying to put some people to work, because there's a lot of us who are licensed to practice, but not everyone has the tenacity or the wherewithal to build a private organization or a private practice like me. So you got to really just hit me up. We can do some business. Thank you so much for that membership, Kimbrella Studio. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, and welcome to the community. Shout out to you. So let's talk about the next thing. It said Trump signed criminal justice reform, and that is for a fairer criminal justice system. So y'all know about the First Step Act, right? Y'all know about the First Step Act. And what the First Step Act did was reform sentencing laws. It also reformed mandatory minimums, and it reduced penalties for nonviolent crimes committed by repeat offenders. And it eliminated the 3 strikes rule. That's a great thing. 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 But was it specific for African Americans? Stop being fooled. And how is this going to help us reach prosperity? Shout out to Kimbrella. So she says, I'm a great writer as well. Do you need to send me the same thing, Kimbrella? and you're especially a community member. So definitely send me an email at askdrshonna@gmail.com. Let's talk. This is what we do, family. We put community. So don't just look at me shouting out the two people that said that they're grant writers. If you are in a position where you can benefit from a grant because the money is out there and you're seeing their names, you need to be communicating in this chat to exchange information so you can benefit. This is not just about Dr. Shonna. This is about all of us. That's why we're a community. That's why I kick people out the community who are trolls and who ain't about shit. People who want entertainment don't come into this community because they ain't nothing entertaining about Dr. Shonna unless you're on my Instagram page. If you're on my Instagram page, everything is about relationship, and I'm goofy and I'm geeky and I share my life and my family, my children. So y'all see these things. So if y'all want that side of me, y'all gotta go to my Instagram page. You're never gonna get that shit on YouTube. You're never gonna get that shit on Facebook. Instagram, yeah, I get a lot of business from Instagram. You ain't never gonna get that shit on YouTube, right? So we have to recognize this. It also says with the First Step Act, it helps inmates successfully rejoin society. It helps inmates to successfully rejoin society, and that's through vocational training, education programs, and faith-based programs. So what does that mean? First of all, let's stop right there for a second. A lot of Black people went crazy about this law. A lot of Black people went crazy about this because when it comes to our population, we're 13% in America. We are overrepresented in the criminal justice system. But what we fail to understand is stats. We got to look at the math. We got to look at the data. We got to look at the numbers. And in this country, the majority population are those who classify as white. Now, notice I did not say European. I said those who classify as white because they may not be from Europe, but they might classify as white. So we already know by number's sake, by percentage, they are the majority. We already know from my video 2 days ago or so, Hispanics are 18%, African Americans are 13%, Asians are 6%, and whites is everybody else that falls into that category that classify as white. So we already know because they have more numbers, they're going to have more people in the prison system. See, follow what I'm saying, family. Follow what I'm saying, family. It's just because we're so small in our numbers, 13%, and overrepresented, it doesn't mean that more of us get arrested. So you got to stop. You got to stop promoting white supremacy language that will have you to believe that it's only us to get arrested. No, majority of their asses get arrested. But when we look at our small population, there's too many of us in prison for the amount of people that reside in this country that fall in our category. So this law was not signed into place specifically for the African American community. But that's the trick bag that they will have you to believe that this was for the African American community. That is a lie. So when they talk about the training programs, oh my God, I'm getting excited because I know so many of you guys you have histories of incarceration. So you know you're probably listening to this like, wait a minute. To help inmates successfully rejoin society by offering vocational training, educational programs, and faith-based programs to help you rejoin society, where at? Oh man, look. Let me bust it down for you guys. Right? Let me bust it down for you guys. There is a lot of people in our community right now. Some of y'all on this feed have histories of incarceration. If you're bold enough, you'll say it. Right? If you're bold enough, you'll say it. It doesn't mean that you're not bold if you don't say your privacy is your privacy, but I already know because I know all the people that contact me, right? So half of y'all got histories of incarceration and yet still struggle getting to an income level that puts you way above the poverty guidelines. Some of y'all got to work 2 jobs, busting your ass 14 to 16 hours a day, and there's only 24 hours in a day just to make $40,000. That's problematic. That's problematic. So who's benefiting from these vocational training programs? Who's making sure before these prisoners are released that they have all the benefits and services afforded to them? Who's making sure of that? So you got to understand that the system, whether you are a probation officer, a parole officer, whoever is responsible, social worker in the system, whether you are in one of those positions and you are responsible for helping the inmates transition, let's look at the amount of people on their caseload. Do you really think that they're going to help these inmates successfully transition when they're stressed the hell out with their caseloads and they got their own families to manage and they're only 55 cents above the poverty line? Oh, shit. Oh, shit. I know some people getting their feelings hurt because they're parole officers, COs, probation officers, social workers in the prison systems, psychologists in the prison systems, and they think that they're doing something big because they got their 9 to 5 and they got their benefits and they got their retirement, but they live paycheck to paycheck. You're about 55 cents above the poverty line. And you are charged with helping hundreds of people on your caseload to successfully rejoin society. And you work in one of the worst areas ever. You got to watch your back, right? You got everybody knocking on your door. Miss Jones, Miss Jones, Miss Jones, I need help doing this. Miss Smith, Miss Smith, Miss Smith, Mr. Paul, Mr. Paul, Mr. Paul. And y'all ain't got it. Y'all stressed the hell out. Y'all trying to survive your goddamn selves. So where are these programs that they talk about? And who is benefiting from these programs that they allegedly are talking about? Show me the data. Show me the statistics. I want to see the demographics. I want to see how many of them represent the African American community, because you put that in a report with the title about prosperity for the African American community. Show me the data. See, we got to stop getting excited over symbolism. We got to stop getting excited over the symbolism, right? So what else does it say about that thing? So you got these mandatory minimums, right? That was a reform. You seen they publicly showed newspaper articles and news articles on CNN and other sources like that with Black people who are being pardoned and they've been let out of prison after being there for 25 goddamn years, and they, is doing great. They're free. But let me tell you something. Many of these people get reintegrated into society with no direction, no guidance, no help. They're doing menial jobs. They're getting paid $12 an hour. They're getting paid $11 an hour. They're getting paid $13 an hour. They're working unsafe jobs. They still can't afford to pay rent. They go home and they're living with their mamas or their aunties or in a rooming house because they can't afford rent. They can't afford cell phone, gas light, car insurance, health insurance. The list goes on. If they advocate for themselves at work, their job security is threatened. They might not even have a job tomorrow because they know you got a history and ain't nobody going to hire you. So then they sign in with these private companies like FedEx. They give incentives to them to hire convicted felons, inmates that have been reintegrated back into society, but they didn't take into account that FedEx has the longest application process forever. And the reason why I know, because I filled out one of those forms for a previously incarcerated person. And I had to take 3 days to do it because I had a goddamn headache filling out those forms. And the reason why I did it, because I'm the one that has access to a computer and an internet, and I'm trying to help the person get a goddamn job because I want to see this person survive. I want to see this person succeed. Now, if it was me, who's a doctor, getting stressed the hell out, filling out this application, you just imagine how this person felt. Overwhelmed. Sitting in front of the computer for hours and even days trying to figure shit out, figuring out what the hell they're talking about just to make $13 an hour. just to make $17 an hour part-time and temporary. So what prosperity for the African-American community are they speaking of? What prosperity? Maybe you guys see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. But we get excited over these symbolic things, not realizing the people who's going to benefit from this are these programs and these fundings don't look like us, because doing these symbolic things don't erase racism. Doing these symbolic things don't erase discrimination. Doing these symbolic things don't erase bias. Oh, those things hurt you, right? Racism, discrimination, oppression, bias. You don't like those words? Okay, let me make it better for you. Doing those things don't erase nepotism. Huh? Is that better for you? That means hiring your friends and family. So that means Dick is friends or neighbors with Bill. Bill's son recently came home from jail and now he's a convicted felon. And Bill's son, Chuck, needs a job. But Bill, a blue collar worker, does carpentry work for Dick. And Bill starts talking to Dick about Chuck's situation, his son that just came home, who's living in the basement, and he's clean now, and he's no longer in prison, and he needs work. And Dick says, I'll see what I can do. And Bill discounts Dick 40% on the job just so he can get his son Chuck employed. And Chuck gets hired without even having to do any of the process that everybody else has to do. See, the reform, the First Step Act, don't fix that bullshit. Right? That's right. That's right, Alex Little said nepotism. Relation over skill. I'm sorry. That's right. Relation over skill. Water Sniper saying, Dr. Shonna, you see how easy they can take off the qualifications of you need such and such diploma off the application. That's exactly what I talked about the other day. It's exactly what I talked to. We get excited about these things. President Trump signs executive order relaxing the hiring process, reducing the educational requirements for certain jobs in the government, certain jobs in the civil service industry. And we like, oh, this is so great. This means more for us. Yay! Meanwhile, Bill and Dick got a whole plan to get Chuck and the rest of them, Billy Bob and them, employment. And your ass is still poor. Shout out to Eugenia Spalding. She says, thank you, Nubian Queen. You know I came from Fly Nubian Queen. Thank you. That means you've been with me for a long time, Gina. I love you and I appreciate you. I can't do it without people like you. Right? That's right, Nick. Nick said because Chuck got Dick backing him. That is disgusting, but no pun intended. But yes, you're absolutely right. Shout out to the Geek Moms. She says, while people hire white Latinos, we are the only ones blacked out. So here's what Trump allegedly did for the African American community. Now I'm finally there, right? So y'all wanted to know what he did for the African American community, because y'all said to me 2 days ago with Dr. Shonna, has anyone sat down from our community? We can't get mad at the Hispanic community for sitting down and requesting these things, requesting funding for them to prosper and being very specific about how they are requesting to prosper. We can't get mad at them. You're absolutely right. I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at us. So what the hell we go sit down and ask for? Somebody said nothing. No, Nick Joe. Nick Joe, we asked for something, all right. Let me tell you, Nick Joe, what we asked for. So y'all remember those two cockroaches? Y'all remember my videos, termite, carpenter ants, and cockroaches? The two cockroaches that rep Trump really hard, Diamond and Silk, I think their names are, if I'm not mistaken. And he's the only president that gave money to the HBCU. right? That's what he did. Supporting the HBCUs. He increased, allegedly signed not an executive order. I don't believe it was an executive order. Oh no, he did. He did. In 2017, he signed an executive order establishing, listen to the keywords. Remember I told you about these buzzwords. Stop getting excited over dumb shit. Stop listening to the cockroaches, Silk and Diamond, who's on his nuts, right? In 2017, he signed an executive order establishing an HBCU initiative. An initiative. Why don't you go look up the word initiative? Go look up the word initiative. I'm going to initiate it. I ain't doing it yet. I'm going to initiate it, right? And here's what he did. The initiative is said to put out there that there's going to be an increase in federal funding by at least 14%. I'm not making this shit up. I'm not making it up. Go read the goddamn report yourself on the White House page. It says increase in federal funding by at least 14%. It's just like when you go into the store and they say up to 50% off, and the word 50% is really big, and everybody runs into the store because they think that the store is having a 50% off sale, and most things in the store are like 5% off, 10% off. You might get lucky if you see something that's 20% off. And the things that are 50% off are the fucked up items that you don't want. The items from 1972 that somebody found in the back and they blew off the dust and they put it on a shelf and they put it 50% off, even though it's out of season, out of style, and ain't nobody nor their grandmother wearing it. Up to, well, this is up to 14%. Kimbrella Studio said we asked for funding of our own libraries, of our own goddamn libraries, with our own goddamn books. That is a problem. That is a problem. We got Tori Harrison says, they may give money to the HBCUs, but how many of those graduates get high-paying positions at the Fortune 500 companies? Speak on it. Speak on it. And do y'all know how many different people go to the HBCUs? They're not all Black, right? Coffee says, I'm speaking like a communist. Get your whole entire life, right? Go get your own channel and you can speak like a liberal, right? Yeah, there's a lot of trolls tonight because I have the word Trump in there. You know how that goes. There's a lot of trolls tonight, Sim. That's right, Alex Leto. They can get their whole goddamn life. Shit, jump off a goddamn curb and break your neck. That's what I got to say to you. So let's move on. So that's what he did. And he also have in this initiative to forgive the HBCU debt that threatened the HBCUs as a result of Katrina. Y'all scratching your head about that, or is that just me? Here's what else he did. In that report, he asked Congress. Y'all gotta listen to these keywords, man. He asked Congress to pass school choice legislation so no child is trapped in a failing school because of their zip code. He asked Congress, hey, Congress, what about if we pass the school choice legislation so no child is trapped in a failing school because of their zip code? See, you got to understand. I did a video not too far back. I don't even think it was a year ago. If you go through the YouTube channel, you'll find it. But I did a video not too far back letting you guys know the systematic oppression associated with zip codes. Oh, I pissed a lot of people off. Y'all know everything I do comes with research. This was a research paper that I was referring to in a research report that I was referring to that came out from the federal government itself. not only giving you the history of zip codes, but how zip codes were used for discriminatory purposes, including redlining. So now you have the president asking Congress, not telling Congress, not an executive order to take care of that shit, but asking Congress, listen, fellas, come on, can we consider passing the school choice legislation so no child has to stay in a failing school because of their zip code? William lies. Look at William lies. You have a filthy mouth using God's name in vain. You better repent. Go away. Get your ass off this page, dummy. You go away. The hell you on this page for? You're just as dumb listening to my filthy mouth with your holy ears, dummy. You repent and go away. That you allowed yourself to listen to my dirty mouth. See, this page is for critical thinkers. This page is for critical thinkers, and clearly, William is not a critical thinker. Clearly, William is suffering from dummism. Clearly. Yes, folks are crazy tonight. Folks are crazy tonight, Nig. You already know they're crazy tonight. They are crazy. Go ahead. Look at a community member. We got Cedric Bland in the house. Oh my God, I love you. I love you too, Cedric. We got crazy dumbasses in here. How dumb is William? William's a dummy. William, I'll pray for you, William. I'll pray to the God you worship, William. The dumb God. Because it ain't the God I worship. His holy ears, his sacred holy ears. Get your dumb ass off this page. Stupid ass. William's a stupid ass. They do want attention. I'm going to give them all the attention in the world, Scorpio girl. I'm going to give it to them. I'm here for it tonight. I'm here for it tonight at 1:09 in the morning on the East Coast. I'm here for it tonight. Take your ass to sleep, William. Anyway, I told you about the zip code. I told you about the zip code. And in their report, right on the White House page, so you know my video froze a little bit, right? Because William and his dumb ass reported my page. He in the wrong community. William in the wrong community. He meant to go to the Joe Osteen page. William's ass be giving Joe Osteen all his money. Meanwhile, William poor and on YouTube listening to our poor black asses, right? Anyways, I was saying, now I told you about the zip code, and I pissed a lot of people off with that one. And that's all I had was facts and facts and facts and facts. And everyone they get mad, but they don't want to go do the research. I always tell people all the time, I challenge you to fact check me on any of this. The president said that no child should have to stay in a failing school because of their zip code. That's what it says on the White House page. I'm not making this shit up. They said because of their zip code. So that's proof right there what zip codes are used for. No, it's not about, oh no, it's because if you're in this zip code, you have to go to this school. Zip codes are attached to everything. It's attached to funding. It attached to whether or not that school is going to have laptops for all the students, or they only could use the computers when they come into the schools. It is attached to whether or not they're going to get the new book. It's attached to whether or not they're going to get the best teachers or the worst goddamn teachers. Oh, zip codes do a lot. And they know this. They know this. The zip code is going to determine your car insurance. The zip code is going to determine your life insurance. The zip code is going to determine the funding that goes to your local hospitals and the quality of care you get. The zip code is going to determine the type of supermarkets, if you're going to have a supermarket, because your zip code might goddamn be a food desert. It determines if you're even going to get healthy, nutritious meals in your community. See, zip codes are very powerful. Zip codes are very, very powerful. So you got to be strategic in everything that you do. In everything that you do. See, I used to wonder why I would come to a certain area and only a certain so-called minority population to be highly represented in the community. And I used to think, well, goddamn, if it costs this much money to live in this community, these people must be balling. And that's not the case. See, in a lot of other communities, they pair up. They're not all related. They pair up and they'll get a house and there'll be multiple families in that house. Why? Because that zip code determines a lot of things for you. And especially when they're first generation here, they'll go to a certain zip code, certain people, not us, right? And not some Hispanics, right? The Mexicans and stuff, right? Really not. But they'll go to certain zip codes because that school system is considered a blue ribbon school system or a high performing school system or a school system that has high rates of graduation and college attendance. See, they do that on purpose because what they're looking at is not for today, but tomorrow. Meanwhile, we can't even live with our own family, let alone our friends or a stranger. I remember one time somebody asked me why I chose to live in my town. And why am I paying that kind of rent when I first moved in this town when I can get a bigger house or a bigger apartment and pay less rent in a certain other zip code? And I said, because I'm giving my children an opportunity. My daughter is studying right now for med school, holds a bachelor's from an Ivy League university. Graduated, I think, either the top 4% or the top 3%, not too sure. I'm sure she'll tell me 3 or 4%, something high of a whole graduating class. See, my daughter was given an opportunity because I chose the right zip code and I made the sacrifice for her to graduate. And now my son, and if you guys who've been following me for a while, you know my son made my hair gray because he was a black boy and they classified him. And I had to fight them until I got rid of his IEP by taking him out. I could have just denied the IEP and be like, I don't want it anymore. But I knew if I just said, I don't want it anymore, and they dropped it, they still was going to lowball him because he was already caught up in the system. But what I did was I took him out of the school, sent him to a private school in another area where he didn't know anybody. And then after a year, took him out of that private school and sent him back into the school district with no IEP. And they had to honor all the classes that the private school gave him. And every last goddamn class was a year above his grade level, and it were all honors. So what do you think he is in the school system that we live in? All honors AP. The same child that they denied honor roll, the same child that they denied gifted and talented, are twice exceptional. Twice exceptional because my child is challenged with ADHD, but I did not sign that paper and he does not have medication. I've taught him how to manage his emotions. It took me some time, but I did it. And he knows when he's getting like crazy, but he's genius. And they can't stand it. They tried me when I came back into the school because they know my name because the lawsuit was on their head. So they tried me and they quickly corrected their behavior because I'm not the one. And he's graduating in the top 3% of the class. See, our children are geniuses. They got to be given the right opportunity. I don't care if I have to work 5,000 jobs. I know the game that America plays with our children. And I'm not beat. Right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say the zip code. See, when I did that video, y'all got it because y'all with me. But there was a lot of other people that was feeling some kind of way and saying, you're stirring up problems, you're being divisive. Now you have a president saying that no child should have to stay in a failing school because of their zip code. I'm not crazy. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to. I have nothing but data and facts. I'm not crazy. I just dig and I dig and I dig. And that's what researchers do. We dig and we dig and we dig all goddamn day. That's why I'm not on here every day doing a video, because I got to dig and 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 I got to cross reference. And when I get it, I'm like, I got something to show y'all. So if you come on this channel for entertainment, you on the wrong goddamn channel. I got two more things and I'm out of here. So in 2018, the president also increased funding for school choice by $42 million in 2018. Who's benefited from that? Who's benefited from that? What schools are benefited from that? Y'all got to let me know. See, they say these things, but they're not giving reference points. Who's getting the $42 million funding? It ain't the school that's failing. It ain't the school that's failing. But let me tell you something. School choice might be available, but if your child is classified and he got that IEP, I told you I did a video on that before too, because listen, I'm a parent who has a special needs child. I did a video on that before. And that IEP is a goddamn tracking method. You gotta get rid of them goddamn things if you can. Not everybody should get rid of their IEPs. Let me make that very clear. I do not want to be irresponsible, but we already know from the data and the research that our children are overrepresented in the IEP category. Individualized educational plan. That's the special education. We already know that our children are overrepresented in those areas. So if little Daquan comes to school and he got a little attitude, now they're going to say he can't focus, he can't study, he got a learning disability and a behavioral disability. And he's going to get an IEP. And mama don't know what's going on and she signs it. And that's a goddamn tracking record. Because when you read those reports and you read what the reports that the social worker puts in, the report that the psychologist puts in, the report that the behaviorist puts in, they're all negative. It's all negative. Mama lives by herself. It's limited funding, limited family support, blah, 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 blah. Every grade that child goes to, every school in that district that child goes to, that IEP follows. And as long as it's in a public school, that IEP is going to follow that child. A tracking method. So when they say $42 million in funding, yeah, that might be for some of the kids that they see has an opportunity, but not your son if your son got an IEP, not your daughter if your daughter got an IEP. They ain't going to want them there. Now, is this for every child? No, not with every child, but is this overrepresented? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Fact check me on that. Right? That's right, piece of candy. Try to have your child evaluated independently of your school system. Absolutely. Absolutely. Geek Mom says, taught the metric system, ratios, etc., to homeless kids in the park using weed as an example. Our kids are brilliant. Of course they are. Right? Zanae says, continue to educate our family, Doc. I'm trying. And here's the last thing in that report that I want to read to you guys, and then I'm out. It says that there was tax cuts signed into law to promote school choice. This is the doozer right here. It's crazy. Promote school choice by allowing families to use 529 college savings plans for elementary and secondary education. I started to crack up when I read that. I said, wait a minute. This is a great thing. This is a great thing for families who have a 529 college savings plan. Do y'all all know what a 529 savings plan? Don't be embarrassed if you don't. Don't be embarrassed if you don't. Don't be embarrassed if you don't. It's saying to allow families to use 529 college savings plan for elementary and secondary education. First of all, not everybody got that plan, number one. And when you say prosperity for the African-American community, that's what your title says. That's what your clickbait title says on your White House report. How many African-American families have 529? I mean, I know I do. But what do you think, that I might just be in a different bracket? And I might have access to different financial planners and stuff. Maybe I got access to those kind of things to learn what it is my child may need. Not everyone has that. Not everyone has that. So if you don't have it, how the hell are you going to use a 529 plan to pay for education for your children, whether they're going to grade school or high school? How are you going to pay for it? That's right, Alex Little says a dirty game. They're playing a very dirty game, but they're using under umbrella words like African American prosperity. No, it's not. Okay, Zane says, no, educate our family what a 529 plan is. Okay, so 529 plans are plans that typically are offered by either private companies, financial companies, or by your state. I know New Jersey state has a 529 plan. I don't know if your state does, but what it does, but you can get it from anywhere. You can go to the bank and tell them you're interested in a 529 plan. And what it does is it allows you to put money in this plan. You can get it deducted out of your check. You can write a check to your plan every month, however you want to do it. But it's important from the minute your child, I say the minute your child gets 4 or 5 years old, that's what I say. It's important for you to open up one of these college savings plans because the plan grows. They take the money and they invest the money in different markets, right? And when your child is younger, they're more aggressive with your investments. And the older your child gets, it steps down the aggression to more safer investments so that when your child graduates high school and is ready to go to some type of post-secondary education, whether it's college or vocational training or whatever, you're able to draw away from that money tax-free to send your child to college. And if you're like my daughter who happened to get blessed and lucky and all the plans that she was given to go to that school, plus my contributions for her tuition. See, my child graduated from an Ivy League with no debt. She has no college debt, no loans. I didn't take out a loan. She walks away zero debt. Medical school is on her, but she walks away zero debt. But when I realized that I did not have to use her college savings plan, her 529, what I did was rolled it over to my next oldest child. That's the one that's graduating next year. That's an AP honors. So if he gets all the blessings that she get because of his grades and his scoring on his ACT and his scoring on his SAT, if he gets those blessings that she got, and I'm able to pay for his tuition out of my own money as well without having to take out any loans, then what I get to do with that 29 college savings plan is now roll it over into my youngest child or combine it with his plan. Make sense what I'm saying? So that money just accumulates. It just accumulates because they invest it for you. The younger the person is, the more aggressive the investments are. The greater the risk, but the more aggressive, right? To make you money fast. And the older that child gets closer to graduation, it gets more conservative. Make sense what I'm saying? Zane, you got that? Right? I hope you got that. I'm trusting that you did get that. So that's what a college savings. So what they're saying, the president is making it easy for people who have a 529 savings plan to use it for secondary, meaning elementary school up into junior high school, or I mean not secondary, to use it for elementary school or secondary school. Secondary school in my state is 9th to 12th grade, but it might be 8th to 12th grade depending on where you're at, right? But that's what secondary education is. So it's saying that you no longer have to wait for your child to go to college to use that money. You can use this money to send your child to a private school so that your child can have a better chance at success. That's what it's saying. Right? That's how it works. But when he signs it into law and he's saying prosperity for the African American community is a trick bag, because many of us in our community don't even have a savings plan for our children. We're hoping and praying that they get financial aid to go to college. But we already know that when funding gets cut, aid gets cut. So less of our children are going to be able to go to college anyway. That's a whole nother goddamn video. That's a whole nother goddamn video. So of course, okay, Zane is saying, I've learned something new. Yes, I got it. Thank you. So if you ain't got a 529 plan, get it. Get it if you can keep up with it. Anything helps. Anything helps. Even if you only save $15,000, at least you might be able to pay for 1 year tuition that, that'll give you 1 year off. You might be able to get the books. You might be able to pay for a dorm. Like, get it anyway. It helps you out. And if your child doesn't need it, you just roll it over to your next child. It's a benefit. And it's tax-free. So it's a benefit. Right? So that's how it happens. So it says, the last thing I wanted to tell you guys about this whole executive order signing thing under the Prosperity for African Americans, it says an executive order reducing police reform, but the president rejects calls to defund or dismantle the police. So in the executive order, what he's asking for is for a database to trace abusive officers. Let's see what happens with that. Because, you know, we was complaining about body cams. They got the body cams and they're still killing us. Right? You can't fix these things without fixing systematic racism or systematic oppression. It doesn't work that way. The president didn't give any comment on the racism debate. He left that alone. He didn't even comment on that. He's given them federal grants so that they can use toward best practices and training. They don't need more training, and they know what best practice is. They're just not doing it. Banning chokeholds unless police officers are at risk. The only thing the police officer has to say that he was at risk of harm. And then he's pardoned because, you know, they got immunity. And if you watch my other video, when I talked about law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights, come on now. You got to watch these videos because they're all connected. I talked about law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights, how they're immune to being investigated unless they grossly violate constitutional rights or civil rights. They're immune to being prosecuted or investigated. They're immune to that. That's why you get so many police officers getting off. Y'all get so excited because there's an indictment. And then after the trial, it's not guilty and you're mad because you haven't been doing your research. If you do your research, you'll stop getting mad. And then you'll start asking for specifics. Right? And then also the executive order says he's looking into new, less lethal weapons to prevent dangerous interactions or deadly interactions. He's looking into, but he ain't signed nothing to stop it. So that's what I found. Maybe you guys found some other stuff that I didn't find. Right? Thank you so much for that donation to Swoovius. It says, even with that reform, what is the punishment for violation? There is no punishment for violation. And that's what I said. We got to stop getting excited over symbolism. We got to stop getting excited over buzzwords that says prosperity for African Americans, and they have misleading messages. Poverty rate is down, unemployment is down, and then everything else that benefits someone, it ain't us. Right? So Sari Soprano says, every time doctor gets deep, they start messing with the stream. Because they mess with the stream because every time I get deep, somebody's reporting my video as a violation of community standards. I'm not violating anything community standards. That's why my channel's still up. However, YouTube likes to look into their complaints. And that's why they shut down my video. But that's okay. I'm only going to inform you. Let me know where I'm wrong. I'm okay with saying I'm wrong. But I promise you guys at the end of the video, I was going to give y'all the link to where to go. So let me go ahead and give y'all the link to where to go to research everything that I talk about. Let me give y'all the link. Give me a second. I hope I'm still there because I see Facebook is messing with me again. I mean, not Facebook. YouTube is messing with me again. I hope I'm still there. Am I? I don't know what's happening. Okay, y'all got to let me know if y'all still can hear me because they're reporting my video. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know if you guys can still hear me, but on my end, I'm frozen. On my end, something is happening. Okay, so you can still hear me. Great, people. Thank you so much. Somebody say more sage, get rid of these. Y'all know, yes. Okay, thank you. So, okay, I'm still here. So great. Let me try to give you guys that. Okay, so here's the source. My computer is ultra slow today. You know what? Let me use my cell phone. This is what happens when they try to shut me down. I just get creative. I'm giving it to you guys. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so it's at whitehouse.gov. It's under their fact sheets, the whitehouse.gov. The report was written, it was issued on February 21st, 2019. And it's titled, President Donald J. Trump is working to expand opportunity and prosperity for African Americans. That is what the title is. It was written on February 21st, 2019. You can find it on whitehouse.gov. All right. And it's part of the facts sheet. I am going to take a picture of this. I am going to put it on the community board. And when you get an opportunity, go ahead to the community board and look at the report yourself. Everything I went over tonight, I read the whole entire report. Is not long whatsoever because it's just the fact sheets of it. I read the whole entire report and I reported to you guys everything I read. I left nothing out to the best of my knowledge. All right. And it's on the White House page itself, whitehouse.gov. My computer is acting crazy. I don't know if I'm still connected, but that's all I have for you guys, family. When I get my thing back up, I'll be able to disconnect from YouTube. Until then, peace and blessings. Thank you to all the new members in the community. Thank you to all the members who have joined the relationship coaching aspect of the YouTube page. Thank you to all the members who are in the business aspect of the YouTube page. Thank you so much for the supporters in the community. And thank you for all the ladies who signed on to my Saturday program, which is the Iris online relationship coaching for women. I thank you guys for being a part of the community and see how much stuff that I actually do offline that you guys would never see online. So my computer is crazy. My computer is down. Hopefully I'm able to end my live. But I love every last one of you guys. Peace and blessings.